Hi, this is Jennifer from Hand in Hand Family Resource Center, and I'm here with Melinda Nipfer from Special Education Advocacy Services of Lucerne to talk to you tonight a little bit about how to prepare for the school year, answer some questions that you might have in regards to special education services and IEPs. Hi, Melinda.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
Thank you for coming.
It's a bit of a wild time for most parents right now, so I appreciate that you're doing, really
I
going to
should
try
also give the disclaimer that I'm at home with 2 children, a husband, and a dog. So.
And I am at home with 2 children, a husband, and a dog as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, anything could happen tonight, everybody. So just
I also have ducks in
us.
the basement, but I don't think they'll bother.
I do want to put my disclaimer is that I'm not an attorney. I am a non-attorney advocate. I do have training in various different areas and certifications in advocacy with different organizations. But nothing that I say tonight is legal advice or, is representative of the legal community. This is just regulatory and or discussion from, personal experience and or training that I have done. But it's not a replacement for any legal advice that you may need to get. But I look forward to getting the questions. We are going to do a slideshow. Hi, Monica. It's nice of you to be here. Thank you for joining us. And I've received some questions from you, Jen, that you had asked people to submit prior to. So we'll go through a few of those. I just want to let everybody know that many of these questions are district-specific questions that you should be asking because they should be on their safety plan or part of their safety plan. And part of the presentation that I'm going to do tonight for you, which I'm also going to be able to put a link to a PDF so you can have that as well. But the presentation I'm going to have up on screen, much of the stuff is all to do with your specific safety plan, but we're going to go into that. So Jen, do you want me to start the presentation?
Yes, let's get moving.
Thank you. It just takes a couple of seconds. It's all text stuff.
I think we all know how that works now.
Oh, wrong one. I'm sorry. No, it's not. This isn't. No, it's the wrong one. Sorry. I've got to stop sharing the screen. It's the same thing, but it's in a pack.
Just kidding. See you tomorrow. I'm just kidding.
That's it. Goodbye. Oh my goodness. We had just done this, and how easy was it? And then to now it doesn't want to do it. So that's always great. Okay, and now it is not coming up, and I don't know why. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to close it down. I'm just going to reopen it. So hopefully it will want to start again. Monica, bear with us.
There's, I think, a couple other people here I saw. So by all means, as we're going through this, if you have a question, you can put it in the comment box and we will do our best to answer it.
Here we go. We're back. So, okay, Jen.
All right, here we go.
Getting the notification to share the screen. Do you see it now?
Yes.
And you have it up on the screen?
Yes.
I have a delay on this end. So these are my back to school tips for parents and guardians with students with disabilities. The first thing that I tell everybody is thoroughly and before making any return to school decision, look at your district plan. This must be posted on the district website. There are some districts that have not published their plan yet because they are still evaluating it and going into negotiations or discussions with the board, and it hasn't been approved yet. But Second thing that I tell parents is make a list of the needs of that your student has and make or may have on return to school. Put it into columns with headers like virtual, hybrid, in-person, other. I put other because some parents are looking at homeschooling or cyber, and they have their own things that they have to do. So I would also, after doing both of those things, is ask for an IEP meeting to discuss the options of the student, because services on the IEP may be implemented differently in the different ways that the school districts may be providing education. After that meeting or phone call, I always say write an email or letter to the school with your understanding of each option and how the services will be delivered. This is your understanding of what the district is offering for your student, and you want to document what that is. This really, in PA, the school options that they're providing are in-school, virtual, or hybrid. Now, across the nation, districts are offering one or more of the options listed. I'll just let you know that Pittsburgh last week was going to be doing fully in person. And as of the end of last week, they're now full virtual until at least November, the first 9 weeks of school. So things can change. It is an ever-changing situation. So as parents and caregivers, myself included, we kind of have to be a little understanding. This is not something that the districts have, created. So, there's some things that are going to be out of their control. And we have to, sort of be a little bit reasonable, because those circumstances can change and we can end up back in a virtual platform. But that's why, having done those steps previously, you're going to identify, well, what would the school be doing and being able to provide for that student if we do go back to virtual, because virtual is one of the options. Another thing with virtual that we have to remember is that the districts aren't, waived of FAPE. So even if they provide a virtual platform, they have to come up with reasonable accommodations, modifications, and services that are in your child's IEP, and they have to deliver them. So some of the things in school, no cost to the parent, and this should include PPE. Public school is public and it is free, and part of FAPE is free. So if you're having to pay for PPE for your child to attend school, then you should be asking for that. And PPE is personal protective equipment. We're going to go into what the CDC, Jen, is saying later. Part of that is about face shields and also about mask wearing. So we also have to be reasonable about the PPE that districts can provide, but we have to make sure that the child is safe. So FAPE has not been waived. FAPE is your free and appropriate public education. It's the right of every student with disabilities. Regardless of how they schedule it, schools must provide what is in the IEP. Busing, transportation, if it was provided previously, then yes, it will still happen. Ask the district how they're going to do it. Some districts have eliminated regular busing. Special education is still being taken care of, but they're not doing busing for non-special education students because they just haven't been able to work out how they can do that and do that safely. They have to comply with the CDC and the State Department of Education guidelines on reopening. Your parental safeguards and due process rights continue. In school is going to be your least restrictive environment, and you should be able to choose an alternative method of education if this ends up not being what you really want for your student. You should be able to have the alternatives be provided to you if those alternatives are being offered to anybody else. So virtual, and I'm not talking about cyber academies or homeschooling or, private cyber or, the school cybers. I'm talking about actual virtual learning, asynchronous learning from what is happening in the classroom. Again, it's no cost to the parent. Sorry, Jen, did you have a question? I can't see you, so.
I know.
You want me to go back?
Do you want me to put our faces up or? No, I just wanted you to explain synchronous and asynchronous because I'm not sure if everybody understands what that is. just in case.
So you can have a model where classes can be that they're going on at the same time. This is your asynchronous learning. Your teacher is teaching to the classroom, and the student is watching virtually and is within that classroom model. So that they're not doing this one-on-one virtual teaching to that student that's at home. They're doing it to the whole class in the classroom and to anybody that is watching online. Generally, you're going to be logging in at the start of the school day and finishing at the end of the school day, and you'll be going with all the teachers. The other option is some schools have thought about doing the virtual, partially how they were doing it last year when we were ending, which we know that was a big hoo-ha for everybody. It wasn't great for most children. So you've got those two, and that's where, you know, it could be recorded, or it could be that they're teaching that student one-to-one versus being in a classroom model. So then we have compliance. Thank you, welcome. You can put our faces up if you want. It might be easier to see you when you have a question. They still, again, even if they do virtual, have to have some compliance with the CDC and state DOE guidelines. And in that I'm talking about is that if they're providing in-home services, then they would have to have the compliance with the CDC and state DOE guidelines for that. I don't know what all schools are going to do in regards to the CDC, in regards to virtual and providing services. To me, that's an individual determination for the specific child, and that to me should be done in an IEP meeting, and it should be agreed to by the team as to the level of service and how that service is going to be delivered. Again, the parental safeguards and due process rights continue. It's a more restrictive environment because LRE can't apply the least restrictive environment. But again, you should be able to choose an alternative method. If this doesn't work for you and they have in person, you want the child to go back to in person, then that is something that you could do as well.
Melinda, you sound funny.
Sorry, are you?
You may sound like
I'm breaking up for some reason.
Ordinarily sound funny, but you sound a little different. You're gargly. Talk again. Let me hear you.
Can you stop sharing for a second and see if that helps?
What if I go back to out without us?
Can you do the stop sharing?
Stop sharing what?
The screen. Do you have your cell phone near the computer?
I do.
Because that can interfere too.
Okay. I'm going to turn it off. Okay. Talk now.
Because I've got the same problem with you as well. You're coming through quite. How's your internet?
It's full. We got all bars. We should be good. I don't know what happened.
I am all bars too. And I don't know why this is happening. I'm just going to drop out of this for a second. If we have to, Jen, we may have to go back and redo we may have to come back in.
We might have too many electronics on in my house. Let me just see if that fixes it. What about now? Is that better? Is that better?
No, but I'm not hearing you very well.
How about now? Can you hear me now? Better? I guess everybody's just looking at me now. give us a minute and we will be right back. Monica, did we sound gargly? Okay, I am back. And I'm going to adjust myself in the screen. So while we wait for Melinda to come back, if you can hear me. And everybody else. Okay. I thought I'd just take a moment while we wait for her to come back to show you. And I did make a post about these books that Autism Little Learners are posting out about. But I have been making them. If anybody would like to have one, it's free. I will just mail it to you. It's about riding the bus. They have them for, coughing, sneezing, and more. And then there's different ones about what is coronavirus. There's some about what school is going to look like, what hybrid means, what virtual means. So that will, I have little booklets for all of that. So if anybody wants any of them, send me a message. So even the different types of buses that are out there, it's still going to be different with masks and probably temperature checks. So if anybody wants one, please let me know. And I'm not sure what is going on. So I'm going to step back out again. Please bear with us for a few minutes and we will try to get back with Melinda. Okay, I'm back again. Melinda has turned her computer off and is restarting it, and we will resume the discussion about advocacy and moving forward in about 10 minutes. Melinda said, go ahead and talk about hand in hand, but I have to tell you, we haven't really been doing much because of this virus. So look for things in the future. Melinda and I would like to have an online mini series regarding IEPs, understanding evaluations, the different parts of the IEPs, what ESY is. And honestly, if there's anything that you are interested in learning more about, we could certainly have a discussion like this again, but without the weird noises and things. Hand in Hand also does a get together for adults of all abilities, and we were going to have one for August, but we had a conflict, and the next one will be in September, hopefully, at the Teen Center located in Berwick. You have to be 18 to come. We are keeping that as an adult event. We also are hoping to have our Halloween camps again at Arnold's Golf Course. We did this last year, and we had a golf cart parade, and the kids went trick-or-treating after the golf carts parked. The golf carts were decorated for Halloween. And then we had all kinds of activities inside, which involved feeling what an inside of a mummy feels like, and different activities. And we are doing it so that all abilities can participate with different pieces of equipment, maybe some switches, some special scissors, and different things so that everybody can participate in making something. So if you need to go and come back, we will hold off until 7:30 so that when we come back on, everybody will be ready to roll. Again, I apologize. I don't know what happened. It is my first time using this games. We were also, I don't know if this is what Monica means, but we were also going to have our inclusive sports day, hopefully at the college, but that fell through because of the virus. So we'll be looking to have that again in the future. Also, we were going to have a safety expo in September, which has also been postponed, but that was going to be on a weekday as a option for a field trip, which is not going to happen now for a while. But we were going to go over the different safety precautions that are important. What are the signs of a heart attack? How do you dial 911? How do you access a cell phone if you've never used one and that is what your parent has? Fire safety. Also, we were going to do instructions to the local first responders and other emergency personnel on how to handle a situation if there is a child or an adult that has special needs. So we're hoping that maybe we can do that in the spring if everything gets better with the situation. There was something else and I'm not sure. We have a YouTube channel and we're working on putting up some videos on there with some social stories on worries, on things that you can do to manage your worries if you're a child, different things for managing anger issues, for kids, but some of it might be beneficial for all of us that are stuck at home with those children as well. I love them, but I'm trying to think. The adaptive swim program at the Berwick YMCA has resumed on a sporadic schedule. I believe that there are 2 spots left. I think the ages are 3 to 12 currently. I'm not sure if that has changed, but that is available. And Hand in Hand has taking care of the cost of that. So we have 2 spots left if anybody is interested. They are on Saturday mornings at 10:30 or 11. You just have to call the YMCA and tell them which time spot you would like. So what do we have? We have 5 more minutes. Does anybody have any questions about Hand in Hand or anything that I could give you information on right now? I will leave all the advocacy stuff to Melinda when she gets back. But I'm here for Hand in Hand or general questions. She says, I just got a message. She's almost ready. So we'll be beginning again here soon. So please don't hesitate to ask questions when she is back on, because we want everybody to feel good about moving forward. I know what I was going to tell you. I am putting together something for my own daughter because we're at home and we've had to have nursing staff help us. And sometimes we get substitute nurses in, so it's not our regular nurse. And they don't always know, obviously, the different things about our schedules or how we work. So I have been putting together it's like a profile of all of the things that my daughter likes, doesn't like, what works, what doesn't work. But I'm also going to extend it a little bit into how does she brush her teeth in the morning? How does she manage to get in and out of a bathtub? Does she use the special equipment at lunchtime, and what does that look like? How do we put her shoes on? Different things like that, because also my daughter will bamboozle them and pretend that she can't do things. So I'm going to make a profile book so that we'll have that in case we have to have other people coming into the house to work with her during school. So that is just a good idea. And even in general for school, this is the best situation for my child. They do better with this item and that item, just different things, so that aides and staff can get to know them easier each year. Because, honestly, IEPs are not fun to read. So. Oh, I think she's coming. I think she might be here. I've added you. Can you hear us?
So there we go. Is that better?
Yay!
I can.
I think they're tired of looking at me, so let's keep going.
Okay, so let me start sharing the screen again. Share my screen. And I certainly do apologize. I do want to correct myself as well, because while I was trying to reset my computer and everything, I'm like, yeah, I just messed up with the definitions of synchronous and asynchronous because it was flip-flopped. So your asynchronous is not being done at the same time. I did.
I think you said it right.
See, but I know how to self-correct. No, I was talking about asynchronous learning as being the learning while you were in the classroom.
Oh,
so I'm doing this now on the PowerPoint just because I think, on the PDF, that I'm going to put a link to in the presentation for everybody,
Okay.
because I think that may have been where it came from. So, and we were at virtual.
Yes.
So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So again, like I said, we were at the least restrictive. So, but you should also still be able to. In this, though, questions for your team at like, how will those services be provided? Will the paraprofessionals be able to be in the home? Is it parent choice? And is it, if they're going to provide an in-school option that I don't get to have any of those other things? So these are the questions that you want to be asking in an IEP meeting. I do know that there is some districts that are going to allow their paraprofessionals to go into the home, but then there are others that are saying, well, it's parent choice to do the virtual. But for most of us, our children can't do well with a virtual aid, even to keep them on. So the next thing is the hybrid. So you got partial in-person and partial virtual. Again, there's no cost to the parent. And anything that has to be done in the home, you want to make a list of the equipment and the supplies that the student will need to participate in the virtual. That goes for full-time virtual and for hybrid. No cost for the parent. If the school provides program, FAPE applies. Remember, FAPE has not been waived unless you decide that you're going to homeschool. If it's been provided previously, of course, the busing would be the same for the days that they are in school. Again, compliance with the CDC and state guidelines. All of your procedural safeguards stay in place. It is more restrictive than a full in-person program, but it is obviously, because you're getting some in-person, is going to be less restrictive for the student once they're in the school. One of the things that you want to be asking is that when they're in the school, how often are those services going to be provided? And when they're not in school again, will the paraprofessionals be able to? Jen, you and I had this conversation about how would this look for many students who are going to do it, that they're only going to be allowed 2 days in the building. Some are only getting, maximum 5 days in the whole 2 weeks. Right. Are they going to, if a student has 15 hours of related services and learning support in a week, is that all going to be dumped in on those 2 days? Which means that they get no benefit of general education in person. Right. So the other questions, again, you want to be asking the school district, because this is going to be specific to their plan. Mm-hmm. And it needs to be specific to your child. So the ed stuff. Then we have the CDC guidelines for mask wearing. I've highlighted some of these areas because I've actually pulled this off of the CDC website, and I've put them down for you, that the actual link to each of the where I got the information. So obviously we know that the CDC is recommending people wear cloth face masks, and our Department of Human Health, Department of Health requiring it as well, and it's now been mandated in public. However, there are some exceptions. Anyone who has trouble breathing, anyone who is unconscious, incapacitated, or otherwise unable to remove the cloth face covering without assistance. So anybody that has any kind of mobility issue that they cannot remove that face mask without assistance shouldn't be wearing one anyway. And that's in the CDC guidelines. And this is the updated stuff. People who are deaf or hard of hearing, they can be exempt from wearing this. However, they want you to consider using a clear face covering. Now, you had on your Facebook page, and I thought that was absolutely brilliant, a hoodie with a face shield. That's a little different. It's a face shield, not a mask. The only thing that I would suggest is that the face shield goes down a little bit further, because it seemed to just reach the bottom of that child's chin. I couldn't really see really well, but they say below the chin, the face shield. So we'll get to that piece anyway. Okay. Now, it says some people, such as people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, mental health conditions, or other sensory sensitivities may have challenges wearing a cloth face covering. They should consult with their healthcare provider for advice about wearing face coverings. I would suggest to anyone that has an issue, that has a child that has an issue wearing a mask, that they contact their provider and they look at other alternatives, such as a face shield. We have some districts that are saying that masks aren't going to be required for anybody. So, we just want to make, except for the teachers, but we want to make sure that obviously all of our students are safe. And, if you are planning on wearing, having your child wear one for their safety for in person or, even in public, check with your healthcare professional and just see what their recommendations might be. One other thing that I wanted to bring in is that, I go into a lot of MDS classrooms, multiple disability classrooms, and we have some very significantly physically disabled students in those classrooms. Some of them have an issue with not being able to swallow. So a lot of their saliva will, they have aids where they're wiping off their faces all day. If a cloth face mask gets wet, it can make it difficult to breathe. So those types of students shouldn't be wearing them anyway. So that's another consideration for parents if you're going to send your child back to school.
I have a question.
Yes.
If the school is adamant that the child has to wear a mask, the parent should just bring in the CDC guidelines and say, this is what these say with this link that you have for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. They can. They can say that they have an exception and it would go against the doctor's recommendations. That's why I say consult with a physician.
Okay.
Just to make sure that your child does fall into that exempt category. Now, another thing that I'm going to put is a link to a PowerPoint for a mask wearing protocol. And it is being done by an OT in Texas. And it's actually really quite wonderful the way that she's done it. It applies reinforcement and it starts out the child very, very slowly. But it's something that, parents can do for the next few weeks just to see how much tolerance their child has. And that's really good data to take as well because you can fill in the mask protocol and you can use that as some of your, basis to the school district on what you've done to try to encourage mask wearing and how you've done this protocol and, it's not working and here's the data because you're collecting all this information on the sheet. So I'm going to attach that to the comment section as well so that everybody can see that and print it out if they want to from the link that I'm going to. So I'm going to share this link as well. So face shields, the CDC does not recommend the use of face shields for normal everyday activities or as a substitute for face coverings. However, if your physician is saying that might be the best for your child, then that I think is something that needs to have a discussion. But they do have guidelines on it. So if a face shield is used without a mask, they should wrap around the sides of the wearer's face and extend to below the chin. And if it's disposable, then you have to throw it away. Reusable face shields need to be cleaned and disinfected after every use. One of the questions, Jen, and I'm going to stop sharing this so I can actually share this on here. So you can stop sharing as well. So I can come back and I can put this link in. And I might have to get my husband to come in and turn the light on because my light is all the way over there. Andrew, could you please come and turn my light on for me so I don't have to leave again because I'm afraid that I'm going to lose connection. My husband's great. I don't know if anybody saw that or if they've only got a full
I saw nothing.
Pop that on, thank you. And so I'm going to put this down. I'm going to come back into.
Oh, hello, there you are.
I am here. So I'm going to add this into an section. That's perfect. Thank you. Oh, I guess I can't do comments. Chat with the host. Oh, there we go. Yes, I can. Does it allow me to add a comment? On my version, it does. Jen, I might have to send you these to put the links in.
Okay.
If that's okay with you. I've got links
Yes.
to the PDFs
Yep.
because it doesn't allow me to put a comment on here. So I apologize. Well, and that's fantastic. Thanks, Amber, for putting that. I couldn't see your comment when we were talking about it. I think that is a brilliant idea. I love it. Just in the photo, I couldn't tell how far down it went. But I think that you're on a winner on that one. And because it goes around, it conforms with everything that the CDC is saying is needed for a face shield. So I would speak to the physician if she can't wear a cloth mask, and see if you can get, that allowed into her use of wear. So let's go through some of the questions. Jenny, you okay with that?
Yes.
We go through some of the questions that come in. So again, some of these are very school specific to their plans. So I'm not going to be able to answer any of them. Let me go to the ones though that I can give some answer. So what if somebody is sick? This is from Mrs. F. What if someone is sick? Will they let the families know that someone is sick in the room? That really is going to follow under the CDC guidelines for contacts, and also under the school, the school, what's that thing called? The school plan. If it's not in your school plan, oh, that's fantastic, Amber. I love that. I would turn around and I would say, if it's not available in the school plan, ask that question when you're going to be asking for an IEP meeting, because you want an answer to that. I know some schools are not planning on contact tracing for secondary. So say if there was somebody on the, this is just some school districts that I've personally spoken to. Other school districts are going to do it right across the board. They're going to like connect the dots. But say like a van driver is in contact with a teacher who was, picking up one of the students from the van, and that teacher has a presumptive case. The other kids that are on the van that don't belong to that teacher aren't necessarily going to be, because it's a secondary contact, which, doesn't sit well with me. But that is, again, need to be asking the school in regards to that. Now, Mrs. G has asked, will TSS services be allowed in the school? They are in that IEP, they need to happen. Now, I've been speaking to a couple of agencies about their restraint policies. Again, that is something that you have to talk specifically with your provider for TSS services on how that restraint will be done, what policy that they have in place, and you need that in your treatment plan to ensure that that happens when, it happens in a particular way or that you're comfortable with. And let me just tell you, parents, you have to agree to restraint. There are alternatives methods, and in our legislation, restraint and seclusion are adversive techniques. Restraint is only meant to be happening if it meets the criteria of serious bodily injury. And that's if somebody is going to end up being, really assaulted and have physical injuries from that assault. I'm not talking about just kicking somebody in the shin. I'm talking about really seriously damaged. There's a really high standard that goes with that. So also to adversive techniques under our legislation is seclusion rooms. So I had a parent the other day ask me about seclusion room and how was that going to be cleaned before somebody else might end up in there. Seclusion is not even allowed to be used. We don't even have monitoring for seclusion in our state because it is a subversive technique, adversive technique that is not allowed to be used under our legislation. So if your child is being secluded in any way, you need to make a complaint to the state. I have a very big issue with that when we're not allowed to do it. So you'll have to excuse me getting quite upset about that when I get calls like that from parents. That it really upsets me. Somebody's, where is it? Mrs. S said, will the aide be able to get the student in and out of the wheelchair? Short answer is yes, because a child needs to be able to be moved. If a child has gait training, if a child has to have positioning, we can't stop that from happening. the schools should definitely not be stopping that from happening, because that's for the health and safety of that child. And you want to ask what the procedure will be and what the policy will be to keep both the student and the aide safe. The next question that I got was from Mrs. S again, which was concerning a temporary situation. Can the school nurse help a child with toileting? A school nurse can help a child with toileting, but a private nurse would be better. And Mrs. S, I'm thinking that maybe you're the parent that's asking about the student that's in and out of a wheelchair as well. So if a child's in a wheelchair, even for a temporary period of time, I would look up a private agency and see that you can get nursing service through the day for that child. And then that one person can help with transition in and out of the chair, positioning, and helping with the toileting. And that should all be covered under the medical insurance. And that is something that you definitely should qualify for if your child's in a wheelchair. That's if it's the same two people, the same questions from the same person. Let's have a look at this. Mrs. C, if students are in the general education as well as the autistic support classroom is needed, are they still required to offer that, or can they say no to limit the movement of students? So technically, if they said no and your student only can be in autistic support, that would be a change of placement. That's an IEP meeting. That's an IEP decision. It's a team decision. And you get to choose on that. They can't just do that for convenience or to consolidate resources. If your child spends time outside of that general ed classroom, at the end of your IEP, you have the Penn data grid, which shows the amount of time that they spend in general education versus special education classrooms. If they have a change to that, that's a change of placement. So you need to be making sure that that is well documented if you agree to it. Virtual camps. Monica, can you give us a little bit more information what you mean about virtual camps? I'd love to answer your question if I can. Jen, do you know what Monica's talking about? You're muted.
We have some noise happening here, so
okay,
I didn't quite hear you.
So Monica, I just asked Monica to elaborate a little bit. She said, what about virtual camps?
Oh, because I was
do you
talking.
know what she's talking about?
I was talking when you weren't here.
Okay, that's fine. If you choose the cyber option, this is from Ms. C, how would an IEP be carried out? So that's a little different because it depends on whether it's a private cyber charter academy or if it's a school-based academy. Because if it's private, then and it's not, connected to the school, you'd be looking at a whole different team. So you'd have to have an IEP meeting. You'd have to discuss how those services are going to be done. And I know that there are a lot of cyber academies right now that are being inundated with applications for cyber academy schooling. And I know that there are several of them. Agora today had their close off for any applications. Anybody now who brings in an application or submits an application, they're going to end up being put onto a wait list. So if that is something that parents are really looking into for cyber academies, they really need to get in on that now. Oh, here comes Jen. Jen's coming back. I was like, oh, I'm going to take over the show. I'm hand in hand.
What happens if they are on the wait list?
If they're on the wait list, you don't deregister them. So you don't deregister them from the public school.
Okay.
So you would want to go along with a public school plan still in case they don't get into an academy, into a cyber academy. And can I just tell you, and this is nothing against cyber academies, but and I work with them a lot because I do have students that are in cyber. And I have had several conversations with a couple of different companies that provide this option for parents. And I'll let you know that there are several of them that are really looking at those applications and are not accepting kids with special needs because they don't have the staff to service them. So I just want parents to, to know that. And if you're on a wait list, that's why I think it's really important to still go ahead with a school plan to determine the needs of the child, to get a plan in place in case they do end up still having the public education, and in whatever form that is. Parents, your kids the most, and there is, homebound instruction as well, where you can actually have somebody coming to the home. It's medical homebound. That's really going to be difficult for most people to get, because it has to be. I was actually on a training today with the National Down Syndrome Society and COPA, which is the Council of Parent Advocate Attorneys. And the lead attorney that was running it was talking about how that, because schools can challenge a homebound notification, like a request from a medical professional. And unless there is a really severe underlying comorbidity with the child's disability, and I guess that they're seeing it already, is that it's happening in other areas where schools are about to start, where they're not accepting the homebound, where there's no comorbidity. So you may not have that choice if it comes to it. Yeah, so Central had to register today. And so even though you have registered today, Central, a lot of districts are saying you have to make your choice now. And as Jen knows, you don't have to make the choice. You can just email the school district back and say that we have to have an IEP meeting before we determine what vehicle we're going to use for this child. And they have to accept that. Now, you may not get the IEP meeting until in service, but that's okay. Gives you more time to look into those options. But they can't say you have to. I was speaking to PDE. They cannot say you have to register today for one option or the other. It's just that they want to know numbers. So, but you don't have to. And I've submitted an email to PDE today, to the Bureau of Special Education, after speaking to one of the Bureau chiefs. And apparently PDE, BSE, the Bureau of Special Ed, is actually meeting tomorrow, and they are going to be discussing some of the things that I've asked and requested information on, because for a lot of kids, they don't need an IEP meeting to go back, regardless of how it's going to be given. Some kids don't actually, they have goals, but they don't have related services. And those goals can be addressed through a virtual learning platform. But then we have other kids who are quite complex and have to have a meeting before we go back. So, when I was speaking to the Bureau chief today, she, said, we do not have to. Okay, I'm sorry, Monica's just said, okay, well, we choose to send her to school. Her teacher comes to the house every Thursday for summer school. So we have a good plan. Well, that's good, Monica, because only parents can really determine at the end of the day what they're okay with. So there is I've talked about the face mask, because we had another one about the face mask. So Mrs. C wanted to know what precautions could be in place for answering the daily health questions for a student who may not understand them and answer correctly. So I have the same sort of issue with, even though my son is very well able to communicate, he can't always communicate his needs. Or, giving the right answer. If you give him a multiple choice, he's usually always going to take the first one. And then if you flip it on him, he'll take the first one again. So we know that he's not always, really actually thinking about the choice and is that what he really wants. So I was thinking, a home and school communication log in a district format of what's required. Even the CDC has guidelines and actually does have a checklist planning for in-person for classes, which I'm going to put the link to in the comments with you as well, for families. And one of them is a check-in with your child each morning for sign of illness. Make sure your child does not have a sore throat or other signs of illness. One of the things that I'm doing is, because my son's temperature goes up significantly, that if we allowed it to be at the 100 degrees for going to school, my son wouldn't be in school. So we're getting a baseline from his physicians, and we will be having that in his plan so that if the bus drivers have to take his temp, they won't just, ignore him to do that. Because the CDC recommends 100.4, which is normal fever, but our school and our state has 100 as our benchmark. So if a child has 100, that's classed as a fever. So the other things that you really want to be talking to the district about and coming up with some kind of plan on doing that. Now, I was on the safety planning committee for special ed with the district, and one of the things that we were talked about was having an updated health history that includes a baseline temp for the district, and to be able to do some releases for some certain things, because some districts will be having drivers taking temps before they even get on the bus. We don't want them to be denied access into school if that's a norm for them. And we do know that the thermometers are not 100% accurate. So they can be 0.4 and 0.8 of a degree off. So even if you have a child that has a 99.8, that could throw them over that 100, and then the child's not allowed to go to school. So I just think that there needs to be more accurate health history and having that plan in place. And that you would want to do during your IEP meeting as well. I'm just going to do a couple more here. So Mrs. Y was talking about the special education classrooms allow individualized plans for each student's preference, mask, shield, plexiglass, desk partitions, etc. No. So the mask/shield, you're going to be talking to your physician about, and you're going to work out, the best solution for your child. And plexiglass, desk partitions, those sorts of things, that's all district. They are already purchased, or they are in the process of purchasing what they feel is going to work best for their students. So that's not going to be a student choice on preference. The district will be paying for all of them. Now, if you have to have a specialized mask for your child and the district is requiring masks, you may have a good case to be able to have them pay for that. So, because, if they're requiring all students to have masks and your child has to have a particular one, they shouldn't be penalized if you can't afford to get that for them. Most parents can afford to get a mask for them, but we do have a lot of parents that can't, particularly if they're disposable and we have to continue to replace them. That's not part of a free and appropriate public education if you're having to pay for, a necessity for that child to attend in-person schooling. So I would definitely be talking about that as well. Mrs. Y also asked, will there be breaks from masks built into the schedule? Now, I know 3 districts that are going to be having sensory time put in so that the children don't have to wear masks, and they're going to rotate them through the kids. One student that I have, they're going to do 2. And so one student that I have, we're actually going to end up putting 4 in the IEP because she's going to need more. So if your child is just learning to wear the mask, and there are sensory breaks that are included, that's another thing though. I don't know if all districts are even thinking about those breaks for these students. That may be an individualized thing. So you may want to talk to them about it and get that in the IEP as well. Mrs. B said, for students who have one-to-one aides, maintaining social distance is not really an option. What is the policy on that? Technically, the CDC has come out that it's 3 feet only that is necessary for the new school mandate. 6 feet is obviously ideal, but they're saying that 3 feet's fine. Some schools are still going the 6 feet, some are going the 3 feet. However, an instructional aide or an aide that has to give assistance hand under hand assistance, hand over hand assistance, hand under hand assistance, transferring the student. OT might have to do gait training, or PT might do gait training. And PT might be doing other types of exercises, fine motor skills where they're having to help manipulate the student. That can't be done at a distance. So they have to be able to wear the right gear Some school districts were talking about full PPE for those close contacts. And they would have to provide those, not the parent. You good, Jen, if we do one more?
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, do you mind if we do the last two? Because the last two are really good. That I think, a lot of parents
Sure.
have this question. So Mrs. L said, if a student is given the option of having all the supports and services face-to-face, but the parent isn't comfortable sending them to school, will they have to forfeit these services because of parental choice? If they are offering virtual, they have to provide FAPE. You need to negotiate and talk to them about what you're comfortable with and what you want for your child to have in the home. Now, that is one of the questions that I did ask the Bureau, because this is a question that I keep getting from parents. And one of the things that I learned today is that parents can't forfeit those services. Even if districts don't want to send somebody into the home, they have to work out an alternative with the parent on how to provide those services and provide those services safely. There are some districts who are flat out saying, I'm not sending an aide to the home because I can't guarantee to that family where that aide has been. But there are other districts who are sending aides in with PPE, with the full gowns and things to be able to provide that assistance. It's really, honestly, is having that individualized plan, looking at that individualized plan, working out what your child needs and how they can get it. And that's where, really good communication, strong communication, back and forth, reciprocal communication is going to happen with the school. And these are all the questions to be sending to the school saying, I really want to have this IEP meeting so we can work out the best thing. Don't agree to a plan right now without knowing exactly how those services are going to affect your child. And they are IEP team decisions. They're not just up to the special ed director to say, oh, well, we're not sending anybody in. We need to get the team together and we need to talk about it. My child cannot attend virtually. However, you're providing a hybrid. So what are you going to do for my child to provide FAPE for the other 3 days? And one of the things that Feinstein, the attorney, said today was that parents could be in a really good position to be able to provide due notice to the school district and buy their fund their own aides and seek reimbursement through the school if they're not going to provide this, if that is the only way that child can get FAPE. So these are the things that we've got to think about. The last one from Mrs. R was, if we end up with another shutdown, how will services such as physical therapy, occupational therapy, etc. be provided? So I said, get that IEP meeting and look at all of the options that the school is providing, because we certainly could end up like Pittsburgh, where they've now gone to virtual and for the first 9 weeks of school. So work out exactly what your child would need in each of those situations, including, equipment, including supplies, and, go back to that team and say, we need a meeting and we need to determine how those services are going to happen. So, Jen, any other questions? I know you had a pile.
I don't. No, the only thing that I want to stress is the importance of having everything in writing with follow-up emails, and knowing that you don't have to sign while you're sitting there at the table, that you can take it home, show your spouse, or
well, you have, if you have a NOREP, PWN, a Notice of Recommended Educational Placement / PWN, which you should get for every single meeting, because it's all detailed on there what those meetings are for. You have 10 days. The 11th day that has to go back to school. So you have 10 days to agree or disagree with that. Take it home, read it, discuss options, maybe come back to the table and look at other things, and, really, really take your time with it.
The only things the only thing necessary to sign at the IEP is the attendance, correct?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Anything else you question what it is?
And at the end of the meeting, you want them to go down to the front office and you want them to photocopy that attendance sheet. You want to take a copy of that with you.
Okay.
Because oftentimes we don't get that given to us.
Right.
We have some districts that do when they send the final copy for the IEP, which yours does. But oftentimes parents don't get that. They might get an electronic copy of the final IEP.
Now, if a parent calls, for an IEP meeting to discuss this, when they could get one ahead of time?
Absolutely. So in IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, there is commentary that talks about a parent having equal participation within the meeting. How can you be a participant in the meeting if you haven't got a copy of the draft IEP prior to the meeting, because you don't know what's going to be said? Now you're just being dictated to. So you don't have any questions. It's very rushed. So within the commentary, and I'll put up the link for that post that I had too, Jen. Would you like that as well? I'll send that to you. So I had a link, and I have the actual commentary that is in the Federal Register that states that if there is a draft being presented to the parents at the IEP meeting, a parent should have a copy within enough time to be able to be an equal participating member of that team. So, you know, if they have that draft, and they can't say that they only got the draft ready the night before, because they've all been talking about this for weeks for your child. That means that whoever's doing the draft didn't do their job and their due diligence to have it ready of all the things that they've decided that they're going to do for your child. No, you get a copy beforehand. It's the same with the evaluations. When you have an evaluation or reevaluation, you're entitled to get a copy of that at the 60-day mark, and not less than 10 days before any IEP meeting. So if you get on the 60-day evaluation timeline, you get that evaluation or reevaluation report, and they want to have a meeting the following day, no. Then they should have gotten it to you on the 50th day. Right? So you wouldn't have the meeting until at least the 11th day after getting that report on the 60th day. And don't waive your rights to that, because you should be able to read it. You need to know what is going on. You need to have your questions prepared, or otherwise you're going into a meeting and all they're doing is giving you everything on paper and saying, "Here, sign this." You're not an equal participating member. So you want to make sure that you're getting all of that.
And don't be afraid to question and ask for documentation.
If you're unsure of something, ask for them to provide you with the school policy or the regulation that is driving their decision. And you want it in writing. If you ask for something in the IEP meeting for your child and the school district denies it, you want that written in that NORA at PWN and their reasons for denial, because that's your right as well. You have to remember that if you were to take things to a mediation, a due process, or even a state complaint, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen, because you can only look at the evidence of the claim. So black and white on paper. Yep. So, does anybody have any other questions? Doesn't look like it. I think I bored everybody. I'm not passionate about this stuff, guys. You should see me in an IEP meeting. Jen, you can speak to that, Jen.
Yes.
I'm not quite clicking tables.
So if anybody does have any further questions, you could send them to me, the same email address that was on the original post, or just send it to my the private message on Facebook.
And over the next 24 hours, Jen, I will respond to each of those questions that you've sent me.
Okay.
In the Word document. I'll turn it into a PDF that you can then put a link to the to this if you want to.
Okay, great. Thank you very
But
much.
there's a lot of them. There's like 26 questions. So
Yeah.
but
25
I
of
hope
them are mine. No, I'm just kidding.
they probably are. You probably put all false names on them for me. But I do appreciate, each and every single one of you. None of this is easy. None of this is perfect. And it's not going to be, perfect for everybody. There are some kids that have really done well during the shutdown. And anxiety's been lessened. But there are a lot of kids that haven't, and they're the kids that need to have the IEP meetings before determining what is best for your child. And only you, at the end of the day, can determine what is best for your child and your family.
Yes.
So I just hope that this was informational enough, and we got, a little bit of information out there.
I think it was excellent. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight, Melinda.
Thank you.
All right. And thank everybody that came on to listen and asked questions. Don't forget, reach out if you have anything else you would like to learn about. Thank you. Bye-bye.